Welcome to Real Money Talks. Real strategies from the moneymakers and the world changers that you can use to make millions, keep those millions, multiply your wealth, and build your team. Here's your host, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View, Loral Langemeier.
Hi, this is Loral. Welcome back to Loral's Real Money Talks, a podcast where we're talking about how to make money, how to keep money, how to invest it, and how to do it with a team and who needs to be on your team, as we call it, integrated wealth systems. And it requires quite a team to become a millionaire and put a wealth plan together. Today, I actually have one of our clients who's on the rise, and you're going to be hearing more and more about her. Tania Vasallo is with me, and she's going to talk about the courage to be happy. I'm going to actually have her dig a little into the courage to set goals, which, and actually acquire goals, which, makes a lot of people in our community happy. And again, Tania, we have folks from all over the world. So welcome to Loral's Real Money Talks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Loral. I really appreciate it. I'm excited.
So tell us a little bit about your story. Let's start with introducing you to our community.
My name is Tania Vasallo, like you just introduced me. And my career started earlier, almost 20-something years ago, in advertising. I started as an art director in New York City, and I worked on multi-million-dollar accounts like Samsung and Starbucks and Nabisco and AT&T Wireless. It was very glamorous and very fun seeing it from the outside in. But it got to a point where it was just starting to become soul-sucking for me. It just didn't align with my values anymore. And I felt like I needed something else. I think I was in search for freedom, and I felt kind of trapped in the corporate world. So my husband and I both decided to quit our jobs. He's an art director too. He was working on other huge accounts too, like the military and car companies. I can't remember the names of them, but we ended up both quitting our jobs in New York, and we got more into the technicalities of photography and worked as photographers too. So we polished up in photography, and simultaneously I was getting my life coaching certification, which basically no one was a life coach back in the early 2000s. I feel like now everyone's a life coach. And we ended up, so it was a little bit eclectic. My background's a little bit eclectic. And once we quit our jobs in New York City, we moved back to Spain, where I'm from originally. But instead of staying in Madrid, Spain, where I was born and raised, we moved to Galicia, which is the northwestern part of Spain, which I spent many summers at. And we opened up a studio. We offered all kinds of services like branding, advertising, photography, all kinds of creative services for those years that we were in Spain. And it was great. We were actually pretty productive while we were there. And then moved back to the States. We knew our time had come up, and we gave it a try, see what it was like working there. Because I left Spain. I was born and raised there, but I left in my third year of college. So came back to the States and continued with the studio with my husband, but it got to a point where neither one of us wanted to run the studio. And the reason being, I think, because you have two creatives trying to run a business.
I'm going to interrupt. Tell me what your expertise is. I mean, is it in the art? Is it in the life coaching?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It has evolved. I feel like I have all these degrees, all these certifications. So where it started out when I launched The Courage to Be Happy 4 years ago, it started more working with women on branding and how to launch a successful brand for themselves. But it has evolved into teaching more about business and money, because what I've found is that this conversation with women, because I work primarily with women, I do work with men too, but it's dear in my heart to work with women, is that a lot of women have trouble talking about money. It's such a taboo subject for us. I mean, it's a taboo subject in general, but for women even more. I think there's a lot of stigma. It's hard for us to talk about sales, about having these conversations. So
I don't believe that. So I'm probably the boldest woman in the planet that talks about money. So Tania, tell us, I know the whole life coaching thing, like you said, everybody's a coach. And, in even the late 90s, I got my certification in 1996. There was hardly anybody. And then 2000, there was a few. And now you're right. Everybody in every, coaching's just too generic. So I know you focus on the Courage for Happiness, but specifically talk about your income and impact that work you do with women.
Thanks for asking that, Loral. Increase your income and impact. A lot of people come to me because they come to my events and they get to experience, because what I've come to realize in these years working with women is that a lot of them have this vision, want to start a business, and they go out there and want to have an incredible impact in the world. They want to leave a legacy with their business, but it's hard for them to ask for money. They don't know what are the right systems, the right strategies to build this business. So I'm a big believer that it's great to want to have an impact, but you also have to learn how to make money, because the more money you make, the bigger the impact you can create, if that makes sense. I sit down with them, and whether it's in a year-long program or a one-on-one, and we look at where they're at with their business. Are they just starting out? Have they been in business for a while? Like, what are the systems and strategies that they're currently missing that they have a blind spot to right now? Because that's another thing too. I encounter a lot of women that are wanting to just figure it out on their own. And I'm not saying that we can't figure it out on our own. I tried to figure it out on my own when I was running the studio with my husband, but it really was like the feast and famine. One month was great and the other month was a disaster. We had to pull out from savings. Like, there wasn't a consistent income. But once you figure out the strategies, and I sit down with them and we look at what are the best strategies for them that they need to focus on with their business. Because it's not always cookie cutter either, of like, oh yeah, just do this or do webinars or go get on all of the social media platforms right now. It's like, I feel like a lot of women I encounter are like, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And it's like, well, wait a minute, where are you getting all this information? Let's take a look at what you're doing, what kind of impact you're wanting to have in the community and the world at large. And from there, once we can figure out what your long-term goal is, we can reverse engineer, put in the systems in place, get the right support, with myself and my team, and get them moving forward so they're making more money with their business and simultaneously having a bigger impact in their community and the world at large, like I'm saying.
Yeah. So Tania, so in working with clients, what do you find some of the biggest challenges? Like, is there a theme amongst them? Like you kind of said, women don't talk about money, well, I make them. So in your experience, what do you think a lot of the theme, the hold back, if you kind of generalize, is there a category that seems to be prevalent?
It's a great question. One of the first things that I see, and that's why I've become fascinated with the money topic, is it's just taboo. The women don't want to talk about it. And even for myself, when I started this several years ago, like even asking people like exact numbers, like how much is your business making? Like there's a shame in it. It's like, oh, it's only making, $5,000 this last year, or I lost money, or I'm not, or I don't know. So there's like not wanting to have this conversation about money. That's why I love and adore you. And I am so happy that I found you, because the money conversation tends to be a male-driven conversation. So that's one thing that I find a lot, is the whole taboo subject. Like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, if I ignore it, then maybe it'll go away. The second thing, and then the women that do have the courage to have that conversation, is when they start. I always feel like I have a saying that if you have courage, the universe will compensate you. Take that jump, take that leap, and you will be compensated for that. So then the second part to the question is, once I start working with them, one big thing is sales. A lot of women don't like asking for money. They feel like there's something bad, that there's something sleazy about the whole sales conversation. And it's so funny that I've learned about sales, because I never would have considered myself someone that would be teaching about sales or about money or about business, because I come from the creative side. I always consider myself the creative, like not about business and sales. But what I tell these women is, It's awesome that you're out there learning about your craft, whether you're a massage therapist and you keep taking courses on massage, whether you're a chef and you're taking more cooking classes, or a dog trainer. One of my clients is a dog trainer and she keeps on, educating herself and her craft. But if you're wanting to run a business, you have to learn about business. And business is all about money exchange money for value of something that you're offering. So you're going to have to learn about money too. Money touches everything in our world. So whether it's with myself or with other people, go out and get yourself educated about business and about money in the same way that you do about learning your own craft. So that's the other main thing that I see them bumping into over and over when I talk to other women entrepreneurs.
And so when you work with men, let's switch gears. When you work with men, what do you see as the distinctions? Because I have a very balanced database. Most people think that I work with women. I have a very balanced, it's almost 52% men, 48 women. So, I just have a very, I'm going to say straight conversation across both genders. What do you find, since you kind of specialize with women, what are you finding that's distinctively different in the conversation with the men you work with?
There's a couple different things. Men are much more decisive. Men feel much more capable. I was just working with a client this past week that she was mentioning that she's like, I feel like I need to go out and get a new certification for her VA services. And so women almost never feel 100% prepared. They could be like 99.9% qualified and feel like that 1% that they don't have, they won't go asking for the business, or they won't ask for the sale, or they feel like they need to go get more prepared. Whereas men might only be 50% qualified to ask for that sale or to deliver that service, but they feel like they're 100% and they'll still take the chance and take the risk with it. So I see definitely men are much more decisive. I feel like men are much more committed to themselves and then investing in themselves. I feel like women, we kind of have to find out the reasons why. And again, I'm generalizing, this is not every single woman I've worked with and every man, but it's almost like in general, we have to find all these reasons why to invest in ourselves or to invest in our businesses. And if not, what the women tend to do is take on everything themselves instead of getting support within the business. Like, oh no, I'll create my webpage instead of hiring someone to do it. Oh no, I'll record my own videos instead of hiring someone else, or I'll write my copy. And it's cool that you can do all those things, but it's not effective. You have to start learning to delegate and to grow and to trust yourself and invest in yourself. Whereas men, I don't think, struggle with this as much. They're much more decisive and they just go ahead and do what they have to do for themselves in the business. Those are the main things that I see different between women and men that I've worked with.
So talk about courage. You had mentioned, once someone, I'm going to say takes an act of courage, the universe delivers. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, the whole name of the Courage to Be Happy, it came about because when I started my life coaching in the early 2000s, one of my closest friends hired me as a life coach. And we worked together for 6 months, almost a year. She had tremendous results. Within the first year, she made more money in 1 year than she'd made in the previous year. She totally shifted careers. By the end of the year, she's like, I want to meet the man of my life. I'm tired of the dating scene here in New York City. So we put a plan together for that too. That's where I'm saying that things start shifting sometimes between business and life and personal. And we put that together and she found the man of her life. And then fast forward 4 years later, right after their wedding, she got diagnosed with ALS. And I started coaching with her again. She was doing 100 million things to get over this ALS, which is not good statistics. But she ended up passing away 8 months later. And it really caught me off guard because it was no different than someone dying in a car accident. But what happened with this is I stopped coaching. Like, I blamed myself for not being able to save her. I blamed myself for not, as a coach, back in the day, you know, they teach you not to just hear what the client's saying, but what they're not saying underneath. And I'm like, how did I not pick up on this? So basically, I stopped coaching for 4 years. And it wasn't until I launched my business again, I was working with my own coach, and she reflected back to me. She's like, Tania, you realize that if you want to get back into coaching and you haven't done it because you've been afraid, you know, that you're not going to be a good coach, or, you know, but this is part of your purpose. Think about all the people that you've left behind in these last 4 years that you could have helped with their business, that you could have helped save their marriages, that, you know, whatever it is. And that's such an eye-opening to me that it put things into perspective. I was like, I need to jump in. I am playing so small right now just because I'm playing safe. And that's how the Courage to Be Happy was born. And those illustrations come from when I lost my friend. I was drawing, you know, I'd come up with therapy sessions, and it was my way of releasing. Besides journaling, I'd draw these stick figure drawings, and it's what pushed me forward. So it's something that I bring up to people. I'm like, whatever your dreams are, whatever it is that you're wanting to do, whatever's scaring you, but it's still part of your dream, you need to jump in. I wasted 4 years of my life since that happened. You learn throughout the process. It's not wasted, but life is way too short. We have to jump in and follow through with those things that get us excited. You know, life is meant to be enjoyed and to play full on, if it makes sense.
Yeah, but don't you think, so here's what's interesting, having, you know, I've been doing this, all this called money coaching, life coaching. It's all, you know, money is part of your life. Mm-hmm. But specifically, I think there's such a focus to, you know, I remember, and still when I ask people, what do they want? They can typically very quickly tell me what they don't want faster than they can tell me what they want. Don't you find that's the same? It's like sitting someone down to really focus on what do you want, what makes you happy actually is a thought process, not just an intuitive reaction. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had that so many times. And I do feel, to add to that people really don't plan their lives or don't focus on their dreams. It's almost like we give up, you know, like we go through school, we take on a job, and then it's like you suddenly find yourself in your mid 40s or late 30s, and you're like, is this all there is to life? You know, like, is this what it came down to? And it's because we don't really sit down to think about, you know, to dream. What are our goals? What are the things that we want to achieve in life? What kind of lifestyle do we want to have? People don't plan that. And I find that people plan more their vacations or their weddings than they do their own personal life.
Would totally agree. So tell me about your book. And I know that you're going to give folks, you're going to give them a chapter, or you're going to give them a copy of the whole book?
Yeah, there's a workbook that I have that's called Designing My Life Workbook. It starts out with a little bit of what I talk. A lot of life coaches use this, and you know, when they're doing life coaching, but I like integrating it with other things. Is taking a look at where you're at in your life, in your career, everywhere, you know, with your finances, with your health. You know, what is it that you want to start shifting? Where are you focusing on right now that needs to start changing? And that's what the Designing My Life Workbook is about. It says it in, you know, in the name. So they'll be able to go through it and go through the exercises, like you're saying, to give it a little bit of thought. Instead of thinking of all the things that you don't want in your life, let's start teasing a little bit the idea and the thought of what is it that you want? What do you want in every area of your life?
That's awesome. And don't you find that when people journal, are you a fan of journaling? I mean, I was in The Secret, yes. So journaling and vision board, and, you know, I'm not obsessed with it, but I think it does help people create a theme when they're having a hard time with it. You encourage people to do that as well as they're going through your book, just to keep kind of a side journal.
Yes. Journaling is wonderful. I personally love it. It's a fantastic tool. I discovered, I think I've been journaling since high school, but I became more familiar with it with Julia Cameron, with the artist way. She calls it morning pages. Yep. And I've been doing this on and off since the early 90s. So it's been amazing. I think journaling helps you tap into deeper parts of ourselves, of those dreams, and even our intuition, you know, of like problem solving too. It's like, what do I want next? So yeah, I'm a big proponent of journaling. I do love that.
So those of you that are out listening, again, you can go to Ask Loral, AskLoral, askloral.com at any point. You will have a direction right off our integrated wealth systems to our podcast, to our show notes, to our transcripts. And if you want to ask any question or make a request to talk to Tania or any of our guests that are on our podcast, myself directly, go to askloral.com, put in your name, phone number, email, ask a question, make a request, and we will be right back to you. Tania, any last words of wisdom to our guests before we sign off for today?
Just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for having me, Loral. Thank you for listening, anyone that's been listening to the call. And just keep on dreaming and choose courage over comfort.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on, and we'll look forward to hearing more from you as our time goes on together, and look forward to actually coaching you and being your mentor. Those of you, again, out listening, if you've enjoyed our podcast, pass it on to others that enjoyed this conversation and need this conversation about money in their life. So we'll be back on Loral's Real Money Talk on the next show.
Thanks for listening to the Real Money Talks podcast. Your host has been Loral Langmeyer, author of 5 New York Times bestsellers, money expert on Dr. Phil, CNN, CNBC, The Street TV, Fox News, and The View. Want to learn more about off-Wall Street investing, tax strategies, and multi-million-dollar business strategies? Visit liveoutloud.com/podcast for past episodes, show notes, and resources. For some special wealth-building gifts only for Loral's podcast listeners, visit liveoutloud.com/podcast gifts. Do you have a burning question for Loral? Visit askloral.com to submit your question, and it may just be covered on a podcast episode. So stay tuned and be sure to subscribe to get new episodes every week.